NATO's leadership have agreed at its summit in Vilnius that Ukraine's future lies within the alliance. The group, however, has stopped short of handing Kyiv the invitation or the timeline for accession that Ukraine seeks eagerly. More details on this in our next report. Take a look.
As a Ukrainian flag from the war front lines goes up near the NATO summit in Vilnius, the message from the Western Security Alliance to Kyiv is that Ukraine belongs on the team eventually. Ukraine's future is in NATO, a leader's declaration read on Tuesday, a sentiment echoed by Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg.
We also made clear that we will issue an invitation for Ukraine to join NATO when allies agree and conditions are met. This is a strong package for Ukraine and a clear path towards its membership in NATO.
What exactly those conditions are isn't clear. NATO members have previously agreed Kyiv cannot join while it's at war. Still, Ukraine had hoped for an invite or timeline during the summit. NATO will make Ukraine safer. Ukraine will make NATO stronger. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told the flag-raising crowd in the Lithuanian capital. Earlier, he said it would be absurd not to get a timeline.
And if you look at other membership processes, there have not been time lines for those processes. They are conditions-based, has always been.
Hours before the meeting's start, Russia attacked Kyiv with drones, underscoring that the Ukrainian counteroffensive is unfolding more slowly than Ukraine had hoped. Still, NATO has dropped the requirement for Ukraine to fulfill what's called a membership action plan, effectively removing one hurdle for getting in. It also vowed to work with Kyiv on military interoperability and other reforms. And Zelensky did score other wins. Germany announced new aid worth over $770 million. And following a similar announcement by Britain, French President Emmanuel Macron said Paris would start supplying long-range cruise missiles. That move was slammed by the Kremlin, which said it was watching the summit very closely.
Now, if you follow the news on a daily basis, you must have seen at least one story related to the Russia-Ukraine war every day. That is ever since the war broke out. But when was the last time you saw the Russian military chief on your screens? Not so often, right? Chances are that you may not even know the person who is leading the biggest war of our times. As it turns out, Russia Chief of General Staff Valery Gerasimov has not appeared in public for a long time. Such a long absence from the public eyes has sparked speculations that the Russian president may have sacked his army chief. Reports of the top Russian general being sacked made headlines recently. Reports say that the 67-year-old General Gerasimov has been replaced by Colonel General Mikhail Teplinsky. During the course of the war, Putin has fired several military leaders. The list includes Colonel General Mikhail Mestentsev, also known as the Butcher of Mariupol, as well as General Rustam Murzov, who reportedly worked behind the massacre in Volodymyr earlier this year. So Putin sacking his military chief is not something unimaginable. But the war times are not so simple after all. So in another twist, the top general made his first public appearance since the failed Wagner mutiny. Footage released by the Defense Ministry on Monday showed Gerasimov ordering his subordinates to destroy the Ukrainian missile sites. The footage indicates that Putin has for now kept his two most powerful military men, that are Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and Gerasimov, in their posts. And that is despite demands from the Wagner chief Prigozhin to sack them over alleged incompetence. As Chief of General Staff, Gerasimov is the third most powerful man in the Russian military. That is after the president and the defense minister. Along with them, he's thought to hold one of the 3 nuclear briefcases that can transmit orders for a nuclear strike. The army general was appointed chief of the general staff and deputy defense minister by Putin way back in 2012. Since then, Gerasimov has played a lot of key roles, be it in Russia's seizure of Crimea from Ukraine in 2014 or in Russia's game-changing military support for President Bashar al-Assad in the Syrian civil war.
действия с выходом на рубеж поддержки.
And we shift our focus back to Ukraine's NATO accession bid, which has not taken place yet. And for more on this, we are now being joined by Oleksiy Goncharenko, a member of the Ukrainian parliament. And he's joining us live from Vilnius, where the NATO summit is currently underway. Thank you so much for joining us on WION, sir.
Hello.
Right. Now, sir, Ukrainian President Volodymr Zelensky has returned empty-handed from the NATO summit. Joining us live from Vilnius, where the NATO summit is currently underway. Talk to us about what lies ahead for Ukraine, as the leaders of the NATO summit have not given any time frame for Kyiv's accession to NATO.
No, you are not right. First of all, he has not returned. He is here. And the summit continues, and today will be the first meeting of a newly established Council, Ukraine-NATO. Secondly, why you think that it's empty-handed? In the hands of Ukraine now, new long-range missiles to fight against Russians, new package from Germany, tanks, armored vehicles, Patriot systems, its air defense, advanced air defense, also big military supply from NATO as organization. So it's definitely not empty-handed. Also, in the communique of the summit, there is the word that Ukraine will be invited to NATO. So there is no doubts about this. The question is when, and it depends from the conditions, which is also quite clear. Definitely, Ukraine would like to see exact terms, and we would like to be members of NATO yesterday. But we have what we have. We made a new step towards NATO. We received military support, and we will continue to work with our allies.
Right, but talk to us about how Biden earlier said that Kyiv is not ready for the membership yet, and talk to us about why there is such a profound dilemma in the West regarding Kyiv's NATO membership.
It's clear why, because Ukraine is in the war. Ukraine is in the war with a nuclear state, Russia, and definitely that is a problem for Ukrainian membership today. Speaking about why it's not ready, I will not comment it because, it's always kind of underestimation of what Ukraine can do. You remember 16 months ago, the West was saying that Ukraine would fail in several days, and the Kyiv would fail and Russia would take Ukraine, but Russia lost. And the war continues already more than 500 days, not 3 days. And now Russia is in defense. So I think that Ukraine is ready. I think that we will prove it to our partners. And I think that next year's summit in Washington can be historical for Ukraine.
You speak of how Ukraine is ready, but talk to us about how Kyiv and the West both are saying that Ukraine's counteroffensive is going slower than what the initial plan was. Talk to us about how Ukraine's window of opportunity to thwart Russian offensives is narrowing at the moment.
The war is unpredictable. Everybody who is saying that they know how the war will go on and what will be the result tomorrow, it's unpredictable. Because this is the war. But let us take a look at the situation from another angle. The countries which support Ukraine, our allies, our partners, who provide to Ukraine weaponry, military support, financial support, who impose sanctions against Russia, the GDP of these countries is $50,000 billion. GDP of Russia is $1.5 billion. So it's just 3% of the GDP of our partners. So in the war of attrition, which we are moving to, Russia will definitely lose. The question is when, and that depends on the weaponry supply to Ukraine, and that is the question. But the result is absolutely clear.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights with us.
Thank you.